Welcome to another tutorial, part of the Django blog series. In this one we're going to continue where we left off of the last one, and that was getting these HTML pages to render the same way, but now with the help of Django. And what we're going to do in this video is make sure that our first view, this localhost view, so this entire page is going to be rendered with some logic which will come from Django instead of just being this base HTML page that we're working with. And so to follow along, you can just go to our Dream blog GitHub repository, and here you'll find all the code for this project. And once you've pulled that, then let's get started. So we want to convert this view, this localhost view that's just rendering this HTML page. We want to convert this into some logic that's actually being rendered. So for example, these three posts here, right now this is just some HTML and some random data being put into it. But what we want to do is design the models that will hold that data, actually create a couple dummy posts, and actually display these posts exactly like how they are right now. And another example would be like the latest from the blog. We actually want this to be the three latest posts. So that's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to basically look at what kind of logic do we need for every part of this page. And starting all the way at the top, we've got the navbar, and this just has a bunch of links. So what we'll do is replace these links, because if I click on it, it takes me to post.html, which isn't an active page. Now, we're not going to create the actual pages that render out here just yet, but we'll just make sure that the links at least take us to a URL that makes more sense. If we then come down, we've got this dummy introduction here, which I'm not going to change for the time being. Then we have the three posts, which again we'll add the models to and figure out how to display the data like this as well. And then we've got the latest from the blog, which will be the three latest posts. And then we've got a subscribe to a newsletter kind of form. And what we're going to do here is just add the logic to keep track of people that have actually submitted this form, and in another video we'll show how you can link this up to something such as MailChimp, although there are quite a few alternatives that you can use as well. And so with that brief overview, we can head over into our code. I've got the server running, of course, and let's go and open up the index.html page. So this is the beginning of the page that we're currently viewing, this one here, and we'll also go and open the header.html. And this file is the header, this navbar here. So we can see that because we've got this navbar collapse, and you've got some links to index.html, blog, post, etc. So for the time being, all I'm going to do is just change this to be slash, and then this could be slash blog, and this could be slash post. And then we've got this language bar here, which I'm going to actually comment out because we're not going to run through the logic of changing languages. So let's refresh this again. And if we click on home, then that takes us back to this page. If we click on blog, it goes to slash blog, and post to slash post, which is good. That's all working now. We've got that contact one as well. But so far we'll just leave it as this empty hash because we don't have a contact page just yet. And now we also want this Bootstrap blog logo to also work. So if we come up top here, this is where that is. So I'm also going to change index.html to be a slash like that. And let's refresh this. And if we click on that, then that still works. Cool, so those are the links, and that's that. Now if we come a little bit down, we've got these three posts. And before we jump into the actual HTML, let's just look at what kind of data these posts are showing. So for one, you've got business and technology, and those seem to be some kind of categories or tags that are categorizing this post. You've then got the title, you've got some kind of description of it, or perhaps an overview. You've got the author, the author's profile picture, and then it says 2 months ago was when it was posted, so like a timestamp, and then the number of comments. Now the other thing is that we have this kind of alternating style here. You've got this one that's got the picture on the right, and then the left, and then the right. Now we can't just copy the first one's code and then loop through our selected query set to give us three list items here. It's not that won't work, because then we're going to get the same one every time. So we'd either have to manually do that or see how we can change the code just a little bit so that we can alternate it on the second item to look like this instead of the first one. So let's go back here, and what I'm going to do is just stop the server, and we'll say python manage.py start app, and we'll call this posts. So there's our posts app, and we can also register this in our blog settings. So let's go all the way to the top here into our installed apps. We'll just add posts, and we can go into our models, and we'll just create a post model. So we're basically going to add the fields to our model that are corresponding to the kind of data we're seeing here on the post. So we'll see that there are categories, there's this title, the description, so we'll add all of that here. So let's start with the title, and that's going to be a character field, which will say the maximum length is, let's say, 100. Then we'll add an overview, and this can be a text field. Then we're also going to have a timestamp, so we'll add a timestamp here, and this is going to be a date time field. And what we're going to do is say auto now add equals true, so that it creates a timestamp when the model is created. Then you've got the comment count, and we don't have a comment model yet, but we're going to handle that. So for the time being, I'm just going to add a placeholder field, which will be comment count, and we'll just make this an integer field, and we'll set the default equals to 0. Then you've got an author, so we'll also come here and say author equals to models.foreign key, and we'll come right above it here and just create an author and say this comes from models.model, and we'll say that the user equals to a one-to-one field with the default model user. So we'll say from django.contrib.auth import get user model, and then say that our user equals to this get user model, and then we'll just put that in our one-to-one field and say on delete equals to models.cascade, and then we'll do the same thing with our author model. This is a foreign key on the post, and again we'll say on delete equals models.cascade, and then we'll just come here and say define string of self, and we'll say return self.title. And what we also didn't notice is the image. This is also going to be part of the model, and we'll say that that's an image field. So we'll say this is the thumbnail, and say this is an image field like that. And we can actually do the same thing on our author. We'll come over here and we'll just say that this is the profile picture, and there we go. So we've got some basic models now, and this basically handles all of the logic we're seeing there. Let's also add the category model. So we'll come above here and we'll say class category. We'll just give it a title. Let's say models.character field. Maximum length is, let's say, 20. And we'll say define string. And then say return self.title. And we'll copy that, bring it here, except this will be user.username. And there we go. Then we'll come here and just say this is the categories, and say this is a many-to-many field of the category model. So this can allow us to select a lot of categories that correspond to this post. And now we can go and make migrations, but first we need to install Pillow, which is the package that allows you to work with images. So let's just stop the server and we'll say pip install Pillow. And I'll also say pip freeze into a requirements.txt file. And now we can make migrations. And then we'll say migrate. And then we can run the server again. Cool. So we've got our models pretty much sorted now. So let's go into our blog views. And I'm actually going to move this file from our blog into our posts app and just say replace. And then we can just close that for now and the models. Then here, we're not going to say this is from .views. This is going to come from posts.views. And now we can close that as well. And everything is still working. Let's refresh that. Cool. So now we've got our models finished, and we're just going to need to go into our views to actually handle what kind of data is being pushed into our index view. So again, we talked about these 3 posts, so we're going to need to grab 3 specific posts, and the way that I think we should do that is by specifying a featured field on the model. So here on the post, we'll just say featured, and this is going to be a Boolean value. And basically what this will be used for is to say if featured is true, then we will render them over here. So let's just make that migration. And I'm just going to say true. And then we'll say migrate. And then we'll run the server again. Cool. So what we also need is a super user. So I'm just going to open a new terminal and I'll say python manage.py. Let's actually change into the source. Say manage.py create super user. Cool, so there's my super user created, and now we can also go into the admin. So we're going to create ourselves some posts now, and we're going to need to register our models. So let's go into the admin, and we'll say from.models import the author, the category, and the post, and then we'll just say admin.site.register the author and also register the category and the post. Now if we take a look, there they are. So let's create an author so long, and this is going to be on the admin user, and I'll just choose a profile picture and let's say save, and we'll go into posts. Let's go to categories and let's add a category here. Let's say that this is Django, and we'll add another one and say this is business. Cool. Now we can go to our posts and add a post. We'll say this is the first post, and this is an overview of the post, and we'll just say the comment count is, let's say 13, the author is admin, and then I've got a thumbnail there, and we'll just add the categories as Django and business, and I'll also select featured. And let's say save. Cool, so there's the first one done, and I'm just going to add 2 more. Cool, so there's the second and the third post added as well. And now what we can do is we can close that in the models, and we want to actually bring that data into our view. So here in the index view, what we're going to do is grab all the posts that have the featured field as true. So let's first import that post. We'll say from.models import post, and then here we'll say that our query set equals to post.objects, and here I'm just going to say .filter, and we'll say where featured is equal to true, and then we'll just set our context to be the object list, which contains our query set, and we'll pass the context inside there. Then we can go into our index.html, and if we scroll a bit down, we can see the post starts here. So I'm just going to paste our object list here, and if we go back to our local host, let's just go up. Then here you can see our query set is giving us our first 3 posts because they're all featured. So now what we need to do is just loop through that query set and render out these HTML divs. And what we also need to do is see how is the first one different to the second one. So if we check the second post, so what we can see is that the difference between the first and the second post is that the first post has the div with the class of image at the end, whereas the second one has it at the front. So that's why the image is appearing on the left and then here on the right. So what I'm just going to do is come to the top, and we can actually get rid of that. And here I'm just going to say for object in object list. Then at the end of this div here, we'll say end for, And I'm just going to come down, and I think what we'll actually do is comment out these two posts here just for now, so we can see that this actually renders correctly. And let's close that there. So here you've got the category, which is a div. And so basically what we need to do is just render out a list of anchor tags which correspond to the object's categories. So let's just come down like this and see what this looks like. And we see that the A tag here is also wrapping around this post title here. So what I'm going to do is just get rid of that, and we'll say this is object.title. And then instead of rendering out each of those, then inside here we'll say for cat in object.categories.all, we have to say .all because it's a many-to-many field. And then we'll say end for, and this will be cat, just like that. Or you could say cat.title, it will give you the same thing. Then you've got this long paragraph tag, so let's just get rid of everything there, and we'll just open that up. And here this will be object.overview. Then we've got the avatar, which is currently a static URL, and we're going to get rid of that. So what we'll do is just get rid of that there. And this is going to be the author's thumbnail. So we're going to say object.author.profile pic. And then at the end of that, we have to say .url because we're referencing the static URL of the image. Then John Doe we can replace with object.author. And then the 2 months ago is the timestamp. So here we'll get rid of that and say this is object.timestamp, and you can apply a template tag onto that, and that is time since. And then we can just close that. And at the end of that, we can say ago, and you'll see how that gets rendered out. And then this is 12 comments. So here we'll say object.comment count, just like that. And then the actual image is going to not be the static URL, but it's going to be object.thumbnail.url. Cool. So let's come back and refresh this. And there we go. Now we can see our posts have come through, and it seems that everything is going pretty well. You've got the categories showing, you've got the title, the overview, the thumbnail of the author, you've got the thumbnail of the actual post itself. And now we just need to flip the second one so that it's on the left, so that it kind of alternates. So to handle this, all we need to know is whether the image should be rendered here or if it should be rendered above the text column. So that's what we need to determine. So we'll just put a conditional statement around that to say if the for loop counter is the first item or the last item, then we'll show it here. Otherwise, we show it at the beginning, meaning if it's the second item, then it goes at the front. So we'll just say if the for loop dot first or it's for loop dot last, then we'll show this there and just say end if, and then just copy that and bring it, and we can take out that line there. And then here we say if not for loop dot first and not for loop dot last, then we'll show it like that. And so let's just check this again and scroll down, and there we go. So now you can see that it's alternating, and we've got that working. Now we can just come down and sort out the latest from the blog, and this is actually quite simple. All we need to do is get the last 3 posts and filter it in terms of its timestamp field and put it in reverse order. So let's go to the view, and we're not going to call this the query set anymore. Here we can call this the featured and say object list is featured, and then we'll add the latest and say this is post.objects.order by, and here we just say negative timestamp, and then we just get from 0 to 3. And then we'll say that latest is latest, just like that. Then we can scroll down and we can get rid of our commented sections as well. That's all gone. And here you've got the latest posts. And again, you're going to have these post columns again. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete the ones that are being repeated. So we can get rid of that one as well. So there we go. And then inside here, we'll just loop through this again. We'll say for object in latest, and then at the end of that, we'll say end for. And then we just need to replace everything like we did the first time. This href, I'm just going to make a hash for now. The image is going to be object.thumbnail.url. The date is going to be the object.timestamp. The category is again going to be a list of its categories. So let's come like that. And here we'll just say for cat in object.categories.all. And then just say end for. And this will be cat like that. And then again here I'm going to change that to a hash. And this is probably the title here. So this will be object.title. And then this again is that paragraph. So if we come all the way over there, then we can say object.overview. And then we can come back and refresh this. And there we go. Obviously, it just so happens that this is also the same query set as this one, because these are the featured ones and these are also the last 3 posts, so the most recent posts. And you can see it because the timestamp is going in ascending order. So this is the latest one and so on. And then lastly, we just need to get the subscribe to newsletter working. So to handle that, what we'll do is we'll create a new model and we'll actually create a new app. So let's close that and say manage.py, start app, and we'll call this marketing. And then we can go into blog settings, and then we'll just come and add marketing. And then we'll just say run that server again. And all we'll do in marketing is just create a model here. We'll say this is a sign up, and this comes from models.model. And we'll just pass in an email, which will be an email field. And then we'll say the timestamp as well is models.datetime field, and pass in auto now add as true. And then we'll say define string, and we'll just say return self.email. And then we can take this sign up and use it in our own form. And here we'll just say from our marketing.models import the sign up. And then here above the context, what we'll do is we'll say if request.method equals to post, then we're going to say email equals to request.post of email. So we'll get the email from the request, and then we'll just say the new sign up equals to sign up object, just like that. We'll say new sign up.email equals to email, and then we'll say new sign up.save. This is obviously a very basic way of doing it because we're doing no validation at all, but it's just to get some logic in for now. And now in our index.html, we can scroll down to our subscribe, and here we've got the form. So we just need to add a CSRF token. The action is going to dot, which is the current URL that we're on. The input is type email, name is email, so that's all perfectly done for us. And we can just click save. And if we come back, let's refresh this. And okay, we've just got a little error there. This is CSRF. Let's come back and refresh that. There we go. So if I come here and let's add test@gmail.com, I click subscribe. Let's go back here and let's add the sign up model into the admin. So we'll come here, say from.models, import sign up, and then say admin.site.register, the sign up. Now if we refresh that, let's go to signups, and okay, we didn't make any migrations for that, so let's say manage.py, make migrations. Now let's say migrate, and let's run the server again, and we're not getting anything, and that's because we have to set the type of method here on the form, and that is actually post. So let's say method equals to post, and let's come back and refresh this, put our email, click subscribe, come back, and there we go. There's our email. Cool, so that concludes this tutorial. We've managed to get all of the front page stuff working like it was before Django was actually introduced. And so if you've enjoyed this video, leave a comment down below and let us know what you thought. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.